How's it going, everyone? I'm KingBlackToof and I'm here to walk you through an Alchemy Nilfgaard deck guide. Now, I've got an Alchemy Nilfgaard deck here, and I'm going to show you a couple of others as well, because there's small tweaks you can do to the golds and silver, so you could really tweak it to how you like to play or how you feel the meta's going at the moment. So, the gold and silvers can be tweaked a little bit. The bronzes will generally stay the same. They're pretty well established now. Viper Witches, Vicar of Iron Novices, 3 of all of them. Slave Drivers, 3 of those, 3 Mahaka Males and 3 Ointments as well. Now, I personally like to stick in 1 extra Swallow Potion because that'll help us not get a bricked hand with these Ointments later. And I'll cover that later a little bit more. So the general aspect of a Nilfgaard Alchemy deck, the first aspect is your Viper Witches. Okay, they deal 1 damage for each Alchemy card in your starting deck. Because I added that Swallow, they do 10 damage, otherwise they would do 9. And their general purpose is to remove the engine cards that appear. So Skellige Greatswords, Skellige Light Longships, Squirtal Farseers or Northern Realms Redenian Knight Elects. Any engine cards which gain value over time, you're using the Viper Witcher to remove them from the board instantly, so denying all that value. And that's their main purpose. Now we combine that with Ointments to resurrect our cards. Now the primary target is probably going to be Viper Witchers, but only if you've actually got targets for them. But they are pretty good value as well. So this allows us to use Viper Witches at least 6 times. I have Triss Telekinesis in this particular one, so we could use an extra Ointment, so we could use them possibly 7 times over the course of a game. The second aspect of Alchemy Nilfgaard deck is the Alchemy cards, the Mahakam Ale. This is a 12-point bronze, okay, and 14 points value if you pull it with a Vicar of Iron Novice, which is optimal. Now, this is a really nice play, and it's something to do when there's nothing urgent on the board that needs doing, and it's going to be where most of your value comes from. We also have Slave Drivers, and these are great on an opening play. So an empty board, maybe you have to go first, because it's a nice proactive play. You also get several bodies, a minimum of 2 bodies, which set up for Mahakam Ale very quickly. So these are a really good play to set up Mahakam Ale, and also as an opening play. You can also use them to try and play the opponent's deck against them. So if they're playing armor, you could steal that armor and deny it the value to them while getting some yourself. So there are some situational uses where you can get that good value too. So that is the general idea behind an Alchemy Nilfgaard deck. You deny their engines with your Vipers, and you gain decent value with Mahakam Ale yourself. And there's also some other combos you can do. Now, I'm actually going to show you about 2 or 3 different types of Alchemy Nilfgaard, because the golds and silvers are exchangeable, and it depends on how you want to play. And I'll discuss what each one's good for. So this first one that I've got here, which is the one that I'll most likely be using when we get to the game at the end. This one uses Triss Telekinesis, which allows us to use another Ointment to get a Viper Witcher or Vicar of Iron Novice. More Ointments, more Mahakam Ale, possibly a Reconnaissance from the opponent, because that is quite common as well. So a really nice choice of specials to use from her. We also use Rainfarn. This will pull Cantarella. Now, we used to have Joachim de Witt in here, but I've exchanged him for Roach. You may want to put Joachim back in if you find that Rainfarn's getting bricked because you play Cantarella from hand. This can be a bit of an issue. We also have Roach and a Sire. So you play Roach and then you put Roach back into your deck with a Sire, which is a nice combo, and you get to play him later. Now, every Alchemy Nilfgaard deck will have a Mandrake. This is an important tech choice for this current meta. Gets rid of tricky cards like Imlerith Sabbath, or just good value on cards like Osrel and stuff. But failing that, we can always use it defensively to strengthen Roach. And in some Alchemy Nilfgaard decks, you can strengthen your leader card. There's no point in us doing that here because we don't run Cahir in this particular one. But we'll strengthen Roach to 10, put him back into the deck, and then get a 10 strength Roach in another round, which is just a great play there. Okay, we use Vesemir Mentor to pull some of these alchemy cards, especially Mandrake is usually the choice. But and then Vilgeforce is just good value. And we've got Expired Ale. This one is 18 value, but people play around this. So we will see different variations on this card, like Dragon's Dream or possibly Black Blood. The second variation here, it exchanges a couple of its gold cards. We've got Stefan Skellen instead of Triss Telekinesis, and we've got Cahir instead of Rainfarn. So what the idea behind this deck is to use Cahir to resurrect your leader card, which is a nice powerful play. The idea is that you would Mandrake your leader card, so it's an 11-point John Calvite, which means that when you Cahir him in the last round, it's a massively solid, strong play in a very short round 3. So you're exceptionally good at short round 3s, which is really good for you. It's hard to match that power. Now, the reason we've got Stefan Skellen in here is because if you play your leader card and he sits on the board at 5, a lot of people are aware that you want to Mandrake it. So they could banish it from the board, meaning that your Kahir is dead. You know, it's bricked. It's got no leader to resurrect. And that is a big issue because loads of people are running Mandrakes at the moment. So having John Kelvy on the board and the opponent plays Mandrake on it and banishes it is a terrible thing to do. So this deck is designed to use Stefan Skellen into Vesemir Mentor, and then you play Jean Calvite into Vesemir, into Mandrake, onto Jean Calvite. So it allows you to do the Mandrake on Jean Calvite instantly, guaranteed, by using Stefan Skellen. And so by doing that, you guarantee that your Jean Calvite is at least 11. If they Mandrake it back down to 5, then that's fine. But it enables a really strong round 3, a really short, strong round 3. Now, a tip for anyone who's playing Jean Calvite as their leader card, and this deck is, so I have done this particular technique, and that is to set up your bronzes in the way of 2 standards and a premium of each one. So I've got 2 standards and a premium, 2 standards and a premium. And the reason for this is because Jean Calvite looks at the top 3 cards in your deck and plays one. So when we look at the top 3 cards, we can differentiate between 2 particular ales. If one is premium and one is standard, we can differentiate between that, and we can sort of influence our next plays based on knowing what's at the top of our deck. And this can be really useful. So if you envisage this situation, this scenario right now, let's say we look at the top 3 cards in our deck and we get a standard ale, a premium ale, and Triss Telekinesis at the top of our deck. Okay. Now we have Vilgefortz here, and Vilgefortz destroys an ally, then plays the top card from your deck. So at the minute we know we're going to get our standard ale. So when we play Jean Calvite, we get these 3 cards. Let's choose the standard ale first, so we play that straight away. Now we know we've got a premium ale and then Triss Telekinesis. If we play Vilgefortz, we'll get the premium ale. However, we can use a Vicovaro Novice to look at 2 bronze alchemy cards from our deck and play one. If we get the option between a premium ale and a non-premium ale, we now know which one of those is at the top of the deck. Okay, so if we choose the premium ale now, suddenly Triss Telekinesis is at the top of our deck, and we can use Vilgefortz and guarantee getting Triss Telekinesis. So while it was a long-winded sort of idea, it is very useful to know which particular card is at the top of our deck and differentiate between premiums and non-premium bronze cards. So I'm going to walk through the opening mulligan for you a couple of times so we get an idea about that. So first of all, although we don't want any ointments in round 1, it is nice to keep 1 ointment in hand. And the reason for that is because these Vicovaro Novices, they look at 2 bronze alchemy cards at random from your deck and then play one. And you don't want to get the option of 2 ointments. So by keeping 1 in your hand, you kind of tip the scale in your favour that you are going to get a Mahakam is one of the choices at least. So for that reason, we don't want any of these Mahakam, so we're going to get rid of these. Okay, so we've got some Viper Witches, which are going to be good in case the opponent plays any engine cards. We also have some Slave Drivers, which are going to be good in case we have to go first, and it will set up for our Mahakam quite easily there. So we've got Rainfarn, so we don't need Cantarella, because that is the only agent we have, the only spying unit. Okay, we didn't get Roach, so we're good. So I'm pretty happy with that. You know, Vesemir has Mandrake available to him, and he also has some other stuff as well. Oh, that was pretty good. So with this mulligan, we have Roach, which we definitely don't want, and Mahakam, which we don't want either. So we put that away. We've got 3 of these, which is fine. We've got some Slave Drivers for in case we go first, and to set up for the ale. We have a Viper Witch, which is okay. We don't want Roach. And I also don't want Cantarella at the minute, because Rainfarn is to pull her if possible. Having an ointment is fine, like I've mentioned. Okay, so having that 1 ointment is good, because it tips the balance, so we're more likely to get Mahakam from these earlier on in the game. Then we have some Viper Witches, which are good. He looks like if he's Harold the Cripple, he may be Axeman. Think about that. Slave Driver's good for in case I go first. We don't necessarily need a Sire yet, but I'm not saying this is particularly bad. We do have 3 redraws, so I'll give it a shot. Alright, that'll do, I think. We don't want to risk getting Roach, and we don't want to risk getting another Ointment because I haven't actually blacklisted that, so that's fine. So alternatively, we've got the Expired Ale. 6 damage to the highest enemy on each row, that's 18 value if they've got 1 unit in each row. Now, the issue with this is top level players will realise this card exists and will play around it. They'll stack on 2 rows against Nilfgaard Alchemy, so you'll lose some value. So this could be replaced if you feel like you're not getting value from this and people are avoiding it. You could replace it with a couple of cards. You could replace it with Dragon's Dream is coming through. This is a 0 point play when you play it, but when it's activated, it'll do 4 damage to every unit on that row. Okay, so while it's 0 point to begin with, it's pretty hard to remove without triggering. The only way they can do it is bronze weather clears, and not many people take those. You may get some from Squirtle if they're using Elven Scouts or movement. Okay, so that you got to be aware of that. So it's a riskier play than Expired Ale, but it could get you a lot more and punishes people for playing against Expired Ale. They start stacking on a row heavily to avoid Expired Ale. You drop a Dragon's Dream at the end of the game and then activate it with an Ointment. You get massive, massive reward for that. So consider that as a really powerful card. A bit more risky though. Alternatively, you could put in Black Blood, which creates a bronze or silver necrophage. And the main ones you're going for are Osrel, which consumes something from either graveyard. Great for denying great swords and stuff like that and getting high value plays. Or you're going for a Buyer, which is a Weather Clear or an Arrakis Venom. Especially if they play a lot of weather, you have no weather clears, although you do have a couple of options for weather clears, and this could be one of them if you wanted to. And be aware that both these cards that I've mentioned are alchemy cards as well. Alright, so this is the standard Nilfgaard Alchemy. I'm going to play a game with it. Now, this is the one that I showed you, okay, but don't forget you can switch things out. I've actually added in a Swallow Potion, so we do 10 damage, which is, I like the Swallow Potion being there. It means you're less likely to get double Ointment, and you can use it in interesting ways to buff the opponent if you feel like they've got a Scorch, and then still get value from the Viper Witches hitting that target towards the end. So I do like that. Yeah, we're going to play that game. Okay, so he's Broover, so he could be Coin Abuse, or he could just be something else. We've got 3 ointments, don't want that many. We don't want any ale if possible, so we'll get rid of 1 ointment. Get rid of 1 ale. And we can't have Cantarella because Rainfard's there, so we'll have to do that. Now, having 2 ointments in hand means I can't ever get double ointment now, which is okay. Not too bad, it just means that I've got less stuff that I can play from hand. So he's going to start with that, I'm going to start with mine. He's Coin Abuse, basically. I'm going to take... So I've got the premium and non-premium. I'm going to take the non-premium. Because that means in my deck, I have only a premium and a non-premium in there now. Okay, which means I can differentiate between them completely, so I know which one's at the top of my deck. Because if I'd have played him, and I saw 2 non-premiums at the top of my deck, or 1 non-premium, I wouldn't know which is which. Whereas now I can 100% see which one's which. Okay, so that's the Coin Abuse business, that's fine. We'll just do this, I think that, get more value.
You should not have come here.
10, that's 12, that's worth 12. So just some of it on my buff. So that was good, that was a 14-point play, which is nice. We do want to Mandrake that if possible. The Roach, but it's a kind of a low point play, isn't it? So never had your kneecaps broken. Right, so he's not stacking again. I mean, he's not spreading, he's stacking. So consider that. I'm going to play some ale.
Now, how did that incantation go?
Now, since he had that from hand, he might have something else from that, like a Tory or something, possibly. We haven't got any Viper Witches, but generally speaking, I don't think there's anything worth killing apart from maybe that. Apart from maybe that. Let's go for a Viper Witcher then.
I forgive you.
Okay, so again, we've got a premium and a non-premium. I think for units, it doesn't quite matter. We've already got 2 in the deck, so these are the only 2. So I guess maybe if we play with this though.
We follow Letho's lead.
Just great.
You annoy me.
Okay. Nice 18-point play. Scorch is possible now though if he wants
enjoy
to.
the weather while we still can.
We couldn't use Mandrake because we need to hopefully be ahead in strength after we use Mandrake, but it's quite low tempo.
Everything all right?
I am going to use it probably next though, I think. I think that'll still put me ahead if he does something like that. That'll put him on to 50.
Right,
And then, oh, sugar. I think we'll still do it because it's still worth doing it. He'll probably keep playing. See what he does about it. He could pass, but I was winning with the card advantage, so it's fine.
We'll win.
Gonna boost all his. Okay. Right, I need. What's that? 24 strength. We don't want to give him a long round 3 though. I don't think. So push him a little bit further. Especially if we can get some. That's 12, and I need, what was it? 24. Pretty easy to get, really. 24. Start with this thing.
Blood and neck ends. Similian Vat.
Okay, now, because I don't think his deck does well in a short round, where we do, because we've got that. Now I need 32. 32 strength. I think that is a bit more difficult to get. 32 strength. 12 plus 7. I think we'll have to pass there. But we kept it with the Coin Abuse, which is another top tier deck. We'll see how it goes though, because obviously I'm going to be at card disadvantage when we go into this last round. Oh, very good. I think he'll pass straight away. Might be a good idea to play a Sire then.
I shall do as you command.
I will put the Spy back in his deck. And I'm also going to put Roach back in mine. So we put the Spy in there because he could get a 13 strength card. He could also lose some value from like Alzor's double cross and stuff. Putting that away is dangerous, and putting that away is dangerous too. So still got his leader card. So. So we've used her to get good value from Roach, as well as offensively to try and make him draw 13 strength brick. Because if he draws the 13 strength, he has to play it on my side or not play it at all. So, you know, it's a card that he doesn't want. Which means he's going to find it hard to mulligan here, because he may get that card. What have I got left? I think we're okay doing that. Excellent. So again, we'll start similar to round 1. We'll start by doing this because it's a good active play. We get some bodies. That'll pull me bronzes. I've got 1, 2, 3, and I've got 5 things. So we just check what kind of things I've got here. Yeah, sure. I don't want to overthin, but Slave Driver.
Sirens eat your innards. Be freed.
Just a little bit extra for a bit more thinning. The Vilgefortz pulls something which is not going to be pulled by something else.
Blood and neck ends. Similian
Okay.
Vat.
Wasn't very good, but fair enough. He does 10 damage, so that's not really worth doing. We'll do have something, so I'm going to do that. And the reason I'm putting him there is because I'd rather the ale didn't go onto these, so I'll try and influence that the best I can.
Of course.
Didn't even get an ale.
Nothing like a dwarf to get you out of a tight spot.
A sword.
Hattori, that's what I said, yeah.
Of
Oh,
your
he just did
own
that instead.
medicine.
So that's got to be a sapper because it's the only bronze. Just 11 points.
Now, how did that incantation go?
That's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Great. Good position.
Why have you summoned me?
Right, that's fine. I think I'm going to get rid of those ointments if possible.
How can I help?
Do an ointment into that. Pull the other ointment
Now, how did that incantation
into that.
You should not have come here.
Not the card that I wanted, but it'll be alright.
Your best!
I was hoping for an elven mercenary into the last ointment into, you know, the Witcher, Viper Witcher. But it doesn't matter, that's fine, I think. So you got something that can deal with it? No, okay. That was okay value. That does 10, so yeah. Go for that runestone, you might get something good from it.
Not much left of that world.
That pulls Slave Driver. That is quite a nice card. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Slave Driver's worth about 13, 14. Go with this.
Death to humans!
Alright, let's get rid of an elf.
Hands dirty.
You've talked enough.
Right, so this will pull either of those. I'm happy with any of them.
An interesting choice.
Ointment would be nice, but yeah. Slave Driver
Sirens eat your innards.
into an elven mercenary. That's what I was hoping for. Let's go.
Storm's coming. Let's enjoy
Ultimate
the
thinning,
weather
my
while we still
boys. Ultimate thinning. I love it.
We follow Letho's lead.
Succulent. Okay, so we ended up using the Viper Witches there, just I think for pure value, because he didn't have any engines. We got the ale. I think the deck, while loads of people say, oh, you know, because loads of people are bored of it, because it's quite powerful and you see a lot of people playing it, does have some intricacies in how you use your ale, not overexerting yourself, because you've got those interesting plays where you can do big chains. You have to identify that you can do those big chains and not over thin. Just good value all around. We got the Roach play. We got the Rainfarn into Cantarella very well, and you know, it was a good way of countering. Yeah, so I think that's the best I can show you, really. But don't forget, there are some different tweaks, variations on the deck itself. Like, you could take out Rainfarn and put in Stefan Skellen, take out Triss and put in Kahir, and then do the Mandrake Stefan thing. So there's a lot of other different styles to this, and maybe I'll do videos of those in the future. But this is a good example of how it's generally supposed to be played. But thank you for watching.